We have a 2002 GMC 1-ton with a 6-liter, which I believe is the LQ4, not the LQ9, but I'm gonna pull it out, and pretty much everything that I will do on this will be roughly the same as an LQ9, minus the main thing being the throttle body here is cable operated versus electronic on the later ones. As you can tell, it's been pretty well pulled through. So some of the stuff will be easier for me to do versus someone else just pulling it out. Otherwise, you can pull the fenders off and the front grille and bumper, but you won't need to. Alright, so the first thing you do is you're going to pull the hood off. I don't have to because it's already gone. And then this cover right here will be sitting right here. Have that bolt there. Take that off, and then you go for the throttle body and the intake. You take this one here off, come over here, you take this off on this side, which is right there. You're going to have to unplug this mass airflow sensor, and then you can start going to your hoses, which one's right here. One, it's down underneath this intake. I already drained all the coolant and the transmission fluid, so I have that already done, which you will have to do at some point. Alright, so with the intake off, you got to take the throttle body. Ones you can screw out. This one is clipped in there. They have little clips here to retain them. You just pinch them with some needle nose and they'll be okay. You pull these 3 screws off here, pull that off the side. The cruise control will came off with it, so do that really quick. Alright, for the hoses, you're going to have to take these 2 off here, this one off, this one here. Pull those off, this one off, these aside, and then on the opposite side, your drain plug is all the way at the bottom side of the driver's side of the radiator. That's how you can drain that out. And then while we're in here, you're going to have to take this here off for the AC and that side off. I already had it drained out, so that'll make it easy for me. And then there's the wiring loom on the passenger side. Connects up here, goes here, connects to the AC, and then one side goes down to here to the underside of the coolant expansion tank, and then the rest go down, and these are already unplugged. The secondary O2 is underneath here, and so is the primary. Alright, so most everything is off the radiator here. There's going to be one more hose right here, connects there, goes to the bottom side of the throttle body. What you need to do to get the radiator or shroud off is there's 2 bolts, one there, one on the opposite side, and there's going to be clips here, there, and a little pin here. That's what you're going to have to remove to get that off, which is a pretty easy task. Alright, with the fan shroud out, the part that's going to be different if you can take the front clip off versus just pulling the motor is, for me, I'm going to take these 3 nuts off on the far side there, where if you're just going to pull the motor, you're going to have to get a fan clutch tool and then a hydraulic puller tool here to get the that off, to get the bolts underneath so that you can take some of the front accessories off, where I will be able to pull just straight out the front without having issue with those 2 things getting in the way. With the fan here off and the hydraulic pulley off, we're going to go to the passenger side of the motor and start disconnecting some wires here. You have to disconnect here on the EGR. To get all of these coil packs off, you got to unplug the coil just by pulling them off, and then you disconnect right here. You pull the safety out, and there's a little clip right here. See if I can do it with one hand. Pull that little safety out, and then you pull this off, and it should just wiggle free. If I'm lucky, and that pops right off. And then you're going to have to pull off the injectors underneath here, which mine are already partially disconnected. There's a little safety that looks like this, if you can see in focus maybe. And it's just shoved down in there. You got to pull this off, and then there's a little tab there. You push that in, and you pull that off, And that side, that is how the passenger side, I believe, is all pulled off. Alright, so the wiring is all pulled off of the coils and the injectors. You're going to have to pull these bolts here that aren't directly connected to the coils themselves and pull that off. This one back here is not going to be your friend. And also, another wiring that is going to be a challenge is this one. Hopefully you can kind of see it right there, that you can kind of see the shadow on. And that's going to be the ground to the back side of the motor. And then take off these, and this side will be off, and then you start working your way back around. And then on the top side of the motor here, you can pull these off here. You're going to take these two bolts off here to get the EGR off, and that'll just make kind of things easier to get apart. For the top side of your intake, you're going to want to take this little blow-by or breather hose off. These two things here, you just kind of push this. I don't know if I can get it on camera. Push that off and it'll pull right off. The throttle sensor cables here, take those two off. The alternator here, pull this off here quick, and then pull this bolt off, and then that should be the top side of your intake all done, minus your fuel lines. With your fuel lines being, there's a little safety pin here that you can pull up. Sometimes you have to use a screwdriver and pull on it and pry on it. And then the second one there for this sending and return. And then you shove a fuel disconnect tool, which I have some somewhere, and it's a 3/8, I think, for both. You just push that in, pull this way, and it should slide right off. Again, same for that. And then your all your wiring comes off, just pulls off to the side minus this map here, and then you'll start having to work down the driver's side of the engine, doing pretty much the same thing, pulling your coil off each single injector, and then back here is the little bypass again. And then I believe everything will be off to be able to pull just the intake itself off of the vehicle. That way you can get more room to maneuver it as you're coming in and out. Otherwise you're going to start hanging up in this space here, not being a whole lot, and your map will pretty easily be broken otherwise. Alright, so I just got the intake wiggled out, and you can see a little bit of how dirty this thing was. I got a little ahead of myself saying that the wiring was done. You have to disconnect this clip here, which is on the side of the intake, and that just runs here to your knock sensors here and there. And then you also see that there's this big bundle of wire right here that connects back here on the back side of the motor and runs down towards the transmission. So you're going to have to possibly go underneath and disconnect that. With the top off of the wiring unplugged here, you unplug these. There's a ground right back here on the back side of the intake. Let's see again. Right there. Right there, it's a 15. Not exactly easy to get to, but if you can see down in there, you can see the first, right there, first connector for the first upstream O2 on the driver's side. And then the main bundle goes off down underneath. That goes into the transmission, and I believe the secondary, and then I believe it splits off into a secondary O2. So at this point in time, I'm going to lift the front of this vehicle up so that I can get actually underneath of it pretty easily. Being underneath the car, the truck, hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. There's the O2 right there, the kind of blue thing. You're going to have to unplug. There are two wiring harnesses to the transmission, kind of right there. One above that you're going to have to pull. God damn it. One that you're going to have to pull. And then the secondary O2 right here that comes along the same wiring harness. Hopefully that is, you can see what I'm trying to get at here. I got all of the wiring pulled off to the side, minus, I forgot to mention, the mount that goes right here. It's right here, goes there. Well, there's a couple wires that go down underneath right here. Hopefully you can kind of see it all the way down underneath. One comes to the back side here of the compressor. Otherwise, the majority of them go to the starter down here. Also, when I was doing this, I was just planning to sawzall right about here off and pull the motor like that. I tried it and buzzed off of all the exhaust manifold bolts. It was missing two, so that might have helped why it came off so easy. So we're going to do that and unhook all these wires, and then hopefully be able to pull all of the wiring harness off to the side. Get ready to pull these motor mounts right here. Hopefully, oh, I'm not even pointing at them. Right here, there's 3 bolts, equal on the same side, and then we'll go underneath and unbolt it from the trans.